Hey guys, James here with Waterford Business Solutions. And one thing that we love to work with business owners on is to help to grow their business and to achieve the financial goals that they have, whether that be saving for retirement, whether that be increasing the revenues that they're bringing in to employ more people, to help out their community more, to send their kids to school, etc. There, we really want to work with our clients to help grow their business and to achieve those goals. And most of the time, that growth is going to really come and result in, hopefully, increasing revenues and increasing net profitability on the bottom line. But being that we focus generally in working in the trades industries, contractors, HVAC, electrician, plumbers, areas like that, growth can mean a lot of asset acquisition. And asset acquisition, while necessary to grow your business, can also be very dangerous and very expensive if done incorrectly. So we wanted to take some time this week to sit down with you and explain when is the right time versus when is the wrong time to do that asset acquisition. Before we jump in today, I do invite you to go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel to get updates and information just like this video to help you better understand your finances and ultimately become a master of your business's finances. You can also, if you've got questions about anything, reach out to us here at Waterford Business Solutions by either emailing us at info@waterfordbusiness.com or calling us at 864-351-0852. As far as asset acquisition, we always want to make sure that you are planning that out, whether that be a vehicle, whether it be a camera to put into the sewer, whether that be a recharge equipment for HVAC, whether that be a vehicle. There's so many different things that as contractors you could go ahead and acquire to help grow your business, even small tools and everything. The first thing we always want to do is have a plan for that asset. We never want to go out and say, oh, well, we could make more money by having another vehicle on the road. So let's go ahead and drop $60,000 on a new vehicle. Plus, we need to go ahead and spend $5,000 to get it wrapped, $10,000 to outfit it with all the shelving, and we need to go ahead and spend another $5,000 to $10,000 on putting everything into the vehicle. All of a sudden, we're $80,000, $90,000 into putting this new vehicle on the road, and while you might be able to make more money, if you don't have a plan in place to ensure that you can make more money, were we ready to acquire that asset? So when it comes to asset acquisition, we really want to make sure that we are planning out when we are purchasing those assets and making sure that we've got labor in place to be able to support the assets that you're acquiring. So if it's a whole new van, we want to make sure that we've got a technician that is trained and ready to go out in that van if we're buying a new van and not replacing a van. We want to make sure that's in place. We want to make sure that we've got a marketing strategy or a strategy to get additional customers in. Because sure, you might have more work than you can handle right now, but do you have enough work to be able to go ahead and have a whole nother van out on the road? Or let's ignore the van argument here. Let's talk about a backhoe. We've got plumbers that are all the time doing septic work and everything, and they come to us and say, well, we want to get a new backhoe or we want to get a dump truck. What do we need to do? Well, do you need that new backhoe? How much maintenance is the old backhoe, or is it cheaper based off of how often you're using it to go ahead and buy or rent the backhoe? So that's always what we want to go ahead and consider is if it's something that you're looking to buy, how often are you going to utilize it? How much does it cost you to rent it? And does that utilization and cost to rent make sense instead of outlaying the money to go ahead and buy the asset in the first place. That's the first thing that we always want to consider, is whether that asset is going to pay for itself and bring in enough revenue to make it make sense to acquire the asset in the first place. If it doesn't make sense to acquire the asset, then we don't want to go ahead and outlay that cash or go through the process of financing. If we are going to be able to get the revenues off of it, then absolutely. The second thing we want to look at is, how are you going to acquire this asset? Are you going to acquire this asset with cold hard cash? Do you have $90,000 for that van, that new truck on the road example that I gave you, to go ahead and just pay out $90,000? If you don't, we have to consider financing. So what is, first, are you willing to take on financing? Do you have the appetite to take on financing? Financing isn't a bad thing if done correctly and done responsibly. But if you don't do it responsibly, if you don't do it and keep your best interest in mind, you could easily overextend yourself, and that's the last thing that we want to have happen. So make sure that you do have an appetite for financing. There are plenty of business owners that choose and say, hey, I just want to have a debt-free business. I don't want to have any debt. So that means to buy a new asset, you've got to have the cold hard cash for that acquisition and for that expansion to happen in the first place. So let's start with that. If you're willing to take on the financing, then we have to take a look at, where are we going to get this financing from? Are we going to go to your bank? Are we going to go to your credit union? Are we going to go to, if it's a vehicle, the manufacturer of that vehicle? Do we need to go look at lines of credits? Do we need to go third party? And what's it going to cost for us to get that financing? Because financing is just that. It is a monetary expense. It is a cost to go there. That $90,000 vehicle, let's say you finance the entire part of it, you're generally highly unlikely to get free financing, at least in 2024, 2025 here. We're putting this video out here in February of 25. I don't know of any commercial loans or any manufacturers doing 0% interest on vehicle loans right now. Equipment's going to be even higher. Most of your manufacturers, the best you're going to get right now, getting a vehicle where they're buying down that interest rate, is going to be somewhere in that 3 to 5% area, and that's a pretty good deal with a incentive on it. If you're just going to the shop and you're just going to buy something in the first place, and they're not buying anything down, you're probably going to be 5 to 8% on the interest rate. And that's what we're seeing consistently come in. So you've got to keep in mind that whatever that rate is, you're going to be paying additional above that $90,000 in interest. So that $90,000 loan over 5 years, you could easily be paying an additional $5,000 or more on that loan, depending on the interest rate. At 8%, it would come out to around $5,000 over 5 years at an 8% interest rate. So that's a pretty big area, or a pretty big bite that you're taking there with everything. So we definitely want to make sure that you are being smart about your financing. Just like I said earlier, you don't want to jump into just financing to finance. Make sure that you're looking at everything. And if you're having to go to third party, fourth party, and unfavorable financing areas, where instead of getting this 5 to 8% or maybe even a 10 to 12%, all of a sudden you're in a 15, 20, 25% area to get this financing, we definitely want to reconsider acquiring that asset. As bad as it is, I see clients all the time bring me a loan with a 15, 18, I saw last year a 28% interest loan. And that's on an actual fixed asset. That's not going to a vendor like, um, yeah, excuse me, businessloans.com or On Deck Capital or something like that, where they're going to give you some subprime loan options that are going to have an APR in that 20-30% range. No, that's coming from a secured loan based off of what the actual customer could afford there. So we really want to consider what those financing costs are when you are looking there, and keep that in mind and ask yourself, okay, I'm going to spend $90,000 to get this. It's going to cost me X amount to finance this over the next few years. So all in, I'm going to be at X to do this. Does that make sense? And going back to what we talked about, getting the revenue. Can I get enough revenue to make this make sense to pay this off? And that really goes into kind of the third point. If you are looking to acquire assets, if you are looking to grow your business, what are we looking at here? What are you really considering going into, and how much is it going to cost you, and where are you currently at? If we're going to finance this and it's going to cost you $1,500 a month to finance this, what is your current cash flow? If you've only got $1,000 a month of positive cash flow coming in currently, and this is going to cost you $1,500, now you're $500 in the hole. So every single month, you're going to be digging a deeper hole of $500. So we want to make sure, if it's going to cost you $1,500 a month here, that you've got that $1,500 a month in positive cash flow, plus some. We want to make sure you've got that, plus a little bit of extra for rainy day, plus a little bit of extra for, well, sure, your typical cash flow is this, but what happens if you end up with a month with triple payroll? What happens if you end up with a month with customers that don't pay you? We've got to have that little bit of safety net there to cover that cash outlay. Because even if you've got an immediate plan to put this asset into action, to get this asset immediately making you money and immediately bringing money in, you've still got to go ahead and consider how long is it going to take me to get that going? You're not going to buy the asset today and get it on the road tomorrow. No, you're going to buy that fan today. You're going to send it to your body wrap, your sign guy. It's going to take him a week, if you're lucky, to go ahead and get everything printed, get it wrapped, get it logoed so you can get it on the road. You've got to also go ahead and get everything outfitted. So it's probably going to be 2 weeks before that starts bringing in any revenue, if you're lucky, if not a month. Plus you've got, if you don't have a guy 100% fully ready, whatever time it takes to get that guy 100% fully ready. And if we're going outside of HVAC, let's go into pressure washing, let's go into air duct cleaning or something like that. You've got all of the material, all of those rigs that you've got to go ahead and load into that vehicle to make it operational and build that vehicle out, extending that time even further. So you really have to go ahead and consider all of that there when we are looking at asset acquisition. So what's the timeline of getting this active, and how long is it going to take before we start seeing the revenue, so that we're not planning on that revenue before it actually comes in? Time and time again, I've seen clients that are like, oh, I'm so close to needing another truck. I want to go ahead and order one. And I'm like, you're so close, but you're not there yet. But it takes so long. I've ran into this with a junk removal company. It took them over a year to get a truck. And so they found a truck. They thought it was a great deal. They wanted to go ahead and have it. Their business was growing perfectly fine. And then they hit a stalemate, and the business stagnated. It started shrinking, and they had this cash outlay that they could no longer afford. And they ended up having to sell that truck, that asset, at a massive loss. And it really harmed the business. So we always want to make sure that we have a plan of action in place. When we're looking at financials and everything, because, well, as an accounting firm, that's kind of what we do most times, we really want to look at your balance sheet and take a look at what a quick ratio and a current ratio of your business is. A quick ratio is honestly going to be the best thing for you to look at. That's going to be, what is your cold hard cash, how much cold hard cash do you have, versus how much in upcoming within the next 12 months debt pay down do you have. That's going to be credit cards, any loans that you have that are coming due in the next 12 months, any payroll liabilities, anything like that. What are those liabilities that you have to pay off in the next 12 months, and how much cold hard cash do you have to pay that with? If that quick ratio there is anything that is like 1-to-1 or less than 1-to-1, where you've got more liabilities than cash, you really want to avoid taking out any further loans, because it's going to be a strain on the finances. And while if you've got a great plan in place, it can still make sense, you really need to make sure that you've got that great plan in place and you're ready to initiate that plan as quickly as possible to be able to get those cash reserves and that revenue up to cover everything. As always, guys, thanks for joining us. Once again, if you have questions on this, or you need help figuring out that quick ratio or understanding your financials so that you are better able to make a business plan going forward, or you just want to go ahead and create a business plan that includes planned asset acquisitions so that you can go ahead and plan for those, save for them, and have it all prepared, go ahead and don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Water for Business Solutions. Shoot us an email, give us a call. We're happy to help you any way that we can. And until next week, have a great week.